Recording now. So there are more people coming to join us this afternoon, so you're welcome to join at any point, and if you're watching this recording back, welcome along for the session. My role in Turn It On is to work with schools to enhance their use of technology, and this session forms part of a series of sessions. The previous one was on OneDrive, the next one is on Microsoft Forms, where we will be looking at just exactly how we can get the most out of Office 365 apps and help you all as educators ensure that you are as thoroughly prepared as possible. So the session today, we're going to have a quick bit of an introduction to Teams itself, the reason why it exists. Some people still wonder why certain functions or aspects of it are there. We'll cover those off. And then it's really into using Teams assignments. We'll look at how to assign work to pupils and students. We'll look at the other side of assignments from a teacher, and that's how to give marking and feedback. We will demo all of that in a live session, so don't worry, it's not just going to be PowerPoint slides, and we'll incorporate into there the new Microsoft Reading Progress tool in assignments, and we'll have quite an extensive look in that and how it works and functions. One of the other things we're going to do for you today, regardless of whether you're watching now or watching later, you can make sure that you become a certified Microsoft Innovative Educator. That's somebody who's interested in their own professional development, and what Microsoft has is the ability for us to give you 1,000 points today, which instantly equals the equivalent of doing 2 courses on the Microsoft Education Center. For those of you that haven't signed up yet, the Microsoft Education Center is an amazing resource for professional development. Whether it's just you wanting to expand your own skills and knowledge, or whether you have a responsibility in school or college to make sure that all the other staff are making the most of the Microsoft technology available to them. You can go to Microsoft Education Center by opening up a web browser and search for Microsoft Education Center. It will then take you to the screen shown in this slide, and in the top right hand corner you can just sign in, whether it's using a personal account or an account that's created for you through your job. Once you're signed in, later on at the end of this session we'll give you a code to redeem, and that will give you 1,000 points for some custom learning based around Teams and Teams assignments. So you'll be able to make sure that you can get that and you can credit that to your account. If you're watching this afterwards, don't worry, we are leaving that code active so that it can be claimed by you as well. So at any point you can bring that code in and add it to your account. As I said, that will make you a certified Microsoft Innovative Educator, or an MIE. If you decide this is something you're really interested in and you think it's going to be beneficial to the educational transformation of your school, there are further steps you can take. So you can decide to undertake what's called the MIE Expert, and that is somebody who is really passionate about technology, who's been using it in their classroom to have an impact, to transform not just their own practice but those around them and the school. And then if you are passionate about that, you can move on to the next step, which is getting other people in your school to also become qualified and maybe consider becoming a Microsoft Showcase school. Back to Teams itself. So Teams has been designed to become a hub for everything, and it gives you a rich set of tools to use for various different aspects of school life. Now, you could be absolutely anyone as a member of staff, and Teams will have something to offer you, whether it's easier collaboration, improved communication, access to resources, or even just if you're still separated in different buildings or you still aren't all together on a daily basis, it may be just a function to have a video call and feel closer to people. It's available on practically any device and any platform, whether you're using a Windows desktop computer. It works on Windows 10 and Windows 11. It won't work on old Windows 7. That's been end of life now for a little while. You could use it on Linux if you don't like using Windows, and you can also use it on an Apple Mac with Mac OS if you are a Mac user. If you've got pupils and students that need access to it, it will run on all major Android brands of tablet and also Apple iPads for iPad OS on there, and it will run on Android for Android phones and also iOS for Apple iPhones. If you are a student using that, I fully accept that small screen can sometimes be restrictive if you're trying to use a resource on screen and you've got half of it filled with a keyboard and the other half of the resource you want. But if you're just joining in a video call or watching a session for something, it can work perfectly well. You don't have to install software even, and there are dedicated apps that can be installed on tablets, phones, and desktop computers, Linux and Macs. But you could just use a web browser, and underneath there on the right-hand side, you can see that it will run perfectly well in the latest Edge browser from Microsoft. It will run in also Google Chrome, and it will run in Safari on a Mac as well. So those browsers work really well for the experience. It's almost the same as far as options are concerned between the app and the browser. There are some subtle differences where there's a few more choices in the app. So if you can get the app installed, great. But if you can't, or you're just jumping onto a device quickly, the web browser version has about 90% of what the app version has. The vision from Microsoft is that Teams is going to be a hub that connects everyone. It will bring together all aspects of the school. It's going to bring in teaching and learning, professional development. It will certainly enable you to connect with pupils or students. And it will, in the future, make it easier to connect with parents when features come somewhere down the line to allow parents into Teams. At the moment, parents can't be given an account to get into Teams, but that is something that's being developed. It's also a single hub as the point of all the applications you use. So, of course, yes, you have everything from Microsoft in there, but it allows you to bring in communication. You will still have traditional email, and longer exchanges, paragraphs are still fit for email. But if it's just a quick question, you might use chat, or you may use the call function, whether it's audio or video call. And additionally, you can create teams of people that can work together within a team or a channel. But it now reaches out to other third-party apps and services you might have. So if you use Kahoot for asking questions in class, then you can plug those in as well. I can see I've got a question over in the meeting, so please go ahead and ask.
Hi, Martin. You said that in Teams we couldn't put parents in yet. What I have done is I invited them as on a channel as a private, like a guest on the channel, and that's the only way I've done it because I needed to do COVID test results forms for from parents to be giving us feedback on that instead of sending emails because they get lost.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if it works or not, but so far it's been working.
It does. So I've done something similar. It won't work with a class team because for safeguarding reasons, you're prevented from adding guests into a class team. But if you just set up a staff or a PLC or a normal team, that's the only way you can get parents in the moment. In the future, what the roadmap is developing towards, particularly for the Teams assignment side, is that parents could have a bit of a login like other platforms. And when you set assignment homework, they would be able to see the homework that's set for their child and interact with their own child's homework. So there's going to be that coming at some point. Good question there, and thank you for contributing your view on that because it's really important on these sessions to hear what everybody else is up to. With the hub, I was going to ask you, and really it's just to continue the discussion we just started there, we've got both here at the moment, there should be more people coming, but what assignments or how much of Teams assignments have you used so far in your school? Has it been minimal? Has it been extensive? Has it continued after hybrid learning and distance learning with COVID? What's been happening in both of your schools?
I haven't used the assignments. I used it during lockdown, but I haven't used it after that. I've tried to use OneNote mostly last year, but this year I haven't made a start on it yet.
No problem. It's been a varied picture from what we've seen working with schools. Some schools adopted it heavily during lockdown because they needed to and they needed a vehicle to getting work home, and then others have just abandoned it and gone back to traditional methods, whereas some schools have, with OneNote, kept Teams assignments going. So hopefully through this afternoon as well, you'll be able to see that there are possibilities for using it in normal school day-to-day use, as well as having used it during that time when we couldn't get pupils in class with us because of whatever reasons for COVID in bubbles. Thank you for that. With the assignments itself, assignments can be used in two different ways. It can be used for formative or summative. It lends itself to various different things. But when you come to set an assignment, you'll be presented with three choices when you go there. And we'll look at this in real time in a minute. You'll either be able to create a new assignment, and that's either for a single piece of work that's going to be due in a set period, such as a piece of homework that will be due after a week. It could be for a project, and that's in after a period of time, such as a couple of weeks. But additionally, it could be for that formative assessment. You just want to get a snapshot in time. And if you're going to do that, very often the quiz feature, which allows you to bring in a Microsoft form and ask the pupils and students questions, and then the form will self-mark after you've taken the time to create it. That lends itself to the formative side. Now, the great thing that pays dividends is once you've invested time in creating those resources, that you've got them there to use in future years, so you can use existing resources if you wish. I've just created a little poll. If I could get you both just to vote, it will come up on screen. Could you just tick which one of the options you've used the most so far, whether it's assignments for homework and projects, quizzes and forms for formative, or it's you've used previous resources and you've brought them in from the last academic year's class into this year's class, and you've recycled them in whichever form they were relevant because you're teaching the same year group, or maybe you're teaching the same subject to a different year group. So you should see a little box in the middle of the screen where you can just click on a box and press submit, and you can choose one of those options. I'll leave that up there as I just carry on to the next couple of slides. So also, when you set your assignment, you'll be able to attach resources and categories and instructions. So the categories can give a steer for whether, if a pupil's looking at a piece of English work, it might be reading, it might be writing. If you're in primary, it might be SPAG related. And then you can choose the resources that are attached to it and the location they're coming from. So before we swap over this afternoon and have a look at that in real time and how to set one of those, I'm just going to go back and check the poll. The poll's still underway, so I'll let you carry on. I'm going to swap screens while you're doing that a moment. Just swapping over. Okay, so you will see Teams in a web browser. Today I'm just running out of Edge browser. Here is what I would see as a teacher, not a pupil or a student. I will show you their view a little bit later. I've got quite a few different teams in here, but I'm going to focus on my primary team for today, although everything I'm about to show you will set up in exactly the same way if you were using it in a secondary scenario, so whichever way the options are the same. Over the summer, things got reorganized a bit, but if you've been using Teams frequently since, you'll know that a lot of the options that used to sit along the Wii space at the top have now moved to the side. And we've got assignments is the option there under OneNote class notebook. So if I click assignments, this is what I will see as a teacher. So when I come in, I've got the assignments that are live, that have been assigned to my class, that I'm waiting for them to hand in and return back to me. I've then got the option to see anything that's already been returned, and I've given them feedback and it moves over to the return tab. And then here are any drafts that are entirely private to me. So pupils and students can't see that, but that allows me to make homeworks in advance, to have them sat there ready to go live. And you can see there I've got a couple which will link later into the reading progress. If we go back to some of the assignments that are there, it might be, let's go to the geography work. The geography work here at the moment, I can see I've got two of my pupils which are yet to return it. It says it's not handed in. If they open that up and do something with it, but don't hand it in, it will say in progress. But then over here, it's returned to me and I've made some comments back to them. What that looks like on the student side, if I just swap to student view there, they would see, and this is a pretty minimalist example, a title. Instructions would appear here. Instructions, bullet points work best. I found from my experience of teaching, whether I'm in primary or secondary, it tends to cause less confusion. And in this instance, I've linked to a web resource where they're going to go and undertake an exercise. So the work in this case wouldn't be necessarily handed back in Teams assignments. It's not a document to hand in. They are simply going to complete a task online in another portal, and they're going to hand back their Teams assignment to indicate to me that it's done. You can work in various ways with the assignment feature. So if we go down to create, this is where you would find your other options. So if you want to pick something up from last year, it's from existing, and your archived class teams that you would have used in the previous academic year will still be accessible to bring your assignments through. So if you spent a lot of time creating assignments then, they aren't lost, they can be brought back in. Most frequently for summative assessment, assignment will be used, but you might want to, for formative assessment, use quiz. And if you press quiz, it will automatically launch Microsoft Forms. You can either choose a quiz that's already in existence, or you can make a new quiz up here. So if I chose the untitled quiz and press next, it will then bring that untitled quiz in and attach it, and I would have named it up previously, but this one is a demo quiz. Give it a quiz title, so it might be, this is our science quiz, and then I can give instructions. So please test your knowledge of materials. And they can go into that quiz, and everything in there will guide them through. And at the moment, I don't want to send that out, so I'm going to save that. And then that appears over here in my list of drafts, and I've got my science quiz there. I haven't attached a category to it at the moment. If I go to make an assignment, it works slightly differently, and you get more options to put the work in. So the assignment itself is going to look a little bit like this. Now, if I take a version I've already used before, so it might be information text for English. When you come in, just to make this training session more informative for you, I've got a pre-populated version. You'll always have to choose a title. It's up to you what you have as the title. I've tried to direct the pupils that are going to receive this that we're looking at information text in English, and I've added a tag underneath to tag this as reading because I want them to read the information text. You can have tags or you can leave tags out, but you will need to give it a title. The instructions, when you click on there, you've got a very minimalist text editor, but you can do things you see like bullet points, you can highlight, you can have different fonts, colors, bolds and italics. If you need to add an associated resource, it may be that there's something they need to go and read, or they need to pick up, or they need to go and refer to from class. You can add a link in, and that link could be used for videos. If you've got YouTube permitted for pupils or students in school, they could use that for that. Or if they were doing this from home, they may have it unfiltered because their broadband at home doesn't have the same level of filtering as school. And then down here, you can see we've got a reading progress task, which is about reading about recycling, and it's about ethically how to recycle the resources we've got on Earth. Then there's a document for them to write into, and when you attach a document, and this is a Word document so they can type into it, they'll only see their own individual work. They won't see each other's by setting it through assignments. They can open up that Word document that I've templated there, and they can take it to write their own answers to the reading progress passage that I've given them. So all the materials they need are attached to the assignment, and they don't have to go looking elsewhere. If you want to attach something, all you do is you press the attach button, and then you've got a set of options. The attach button will initially promote you going to your OneDrive, and Microsoft encourages you to keep all of your private personal documents in your OneDrive. So here are my folders and documents. If I wanted to attach something else, all I do is click on it, and then I press attach, and it would appear on the list of documents I've already got there. If I go back in here, I could link it to materials they need to reference that I've been using in class. So if I go to OneNote class notebook, it will open up my OneNote class notebooks that I've been using. So it might be I want something from collaboration space, and I want something I've been doing in English. And then I could go into housing for Egypt. We've been looking at that, and I attach that. and then it will bring in that as a resource, and it will say where I want to put it for them. So I want to put it into their homework section of their OneNote class notebook, and press done. So it's telling me that I've given them the resource from the lesson. We were looking at Egyptian housing and how they were environmentally friendly with the building materials they used. For the pupil or the student, it can be found in their OneNote class notebook under their name in their OneNote class notebook area in the homework section, so they'll know where it's located and they can go and get it from there. You can also add links in the attach here, so they work in exactly the same way. They could be a URL for a website, or they could be a video if you want that as a stimulus to the learning. You can go to other teams that you're permitted to have access to. So I've got access to quite a few other teams, but if it was, let's say, the other Turn It On class team and they're a parallel class in a primary, I might go in, I think that teacher's got something in class materials. Now, if I was lucky, I'd find their resources in there and I could borrow the resource from the other class teacher. So it's all about that collaboration and reducing workloads and minimizing extra things we've got to do. Reading progress we'll come on to in a minute, but the other thing you'll be able to do is upload from this device. So it looks at folders you've got in your shared areas, and then you can bring in those resources locally saved on your computer, or you could browse to a server shared area, whichever one suits you best. So there's a whole raft of ways that you can add to the instructions and get resources there. You can assign points if you wish. I don't tend to use them that frequently. I may, if we're practicing for an examination and we know there's a certain number of marks per question, or sometimes if I've got a class that responds to a little bit of competition, I might have that in there and create a league table environment, but not always. You can add a rubric as well, and rubrics are there to help give us a greater depth of understanding. I don't think I've got an English rubric, so let's add a new rubric. So you'd give a title, so the title might be information text, and some of the schools that I've worked with have decided to create all their rubrics in advance, and this might be about extracting information. I can type this afternoon from text. And then down here you would have a greater depth of explanation. So it might be ability to find evidence. And then you can choose your levels of challenge in school, and your levels of challenge can be based on your own system. So it might be that you have emerging, expected, exceeding, mastery. It might be you have mild, spicy, hot. So if you think, well, actually, we've only got 3 levels of challenge, I can get rid of 1. So I might say there's only 2, and I want to rename that to the mild, spicy, hot scenario. So that's going to be mild, that's spicy, and that one here is hot. So I'm fitting with the school system, and then I give a description in here as to what I would expect to see in their homework as evidence that they hand back to me, and they're very clear on what the expectations are. It might give them illustrative examples. The best analogy I can give for this in the UK system is that you might have a learning objective for the lesson, and it's broken down into success criteria, or the rubric can be used as success criteria. So the top end might be clear examples of evidence, and down here mild might be a single example of evidence, and you can flesh that out as much as you want with as much detail, and you can bring in some from your lesson planning, or if you've got schemes that you use with planning in school. So I'm just going to attach that. So now I've also got to help the pupils in their understanding. I've got the rubric over here for information text, but I can always press the cross and that will take it back out. I can only have 1 rubric at a time though. Then we choose who we're going to assign the homework to. I can either have it because I'm in my primary classroom, it will automatically set for my primary classroom, but I could set it, for instance, if I wanted it for the Turn It On team as well, I could set it up in there too. Maybe it's not going to let me have that one. I might set it for there as well. So now I've got 2 classes, or I could go in there and I could untick and bring it back to a single class. So it will allow you to set to homework or set the assignments for the number of classes you have. And in a similar fashion, you can either set for the whole class, all students, individual students, or groups of students, and it gives you that flexibility. You may want to use the assignment as a formative way of assessing what a group understands rather than giving it as a whole school or a whole class homework. Then down here you can have dates that you want the homework back in and times as well. So I might say, look, that's a bit late, midnight. I don't expect anyone to be working at midnight, but I would like it to me by 4 p.m. and we'll set it for straight after half term. So let's go through and we'll say it's going to be on the 1st of November. And then you can also have the assignment added to calendars. I normally leave that as on. It really helps as far as I've had feedback from pupils and students to have it in their own calendar and they can see when things are due. Also posting in the channel so you get a notification of that assignment, and that is the options that you have available to you when you're creating an assignment. So I'm going to save that one rather than post it. What it looks like is it will appear over in your calendar, and it will also appear here in the notifications. So you can see here was one I set on imaginative writing. There was another one there on 2D shapes. And as far as the pupil or the student's concerned, they get to see the posts for the class as well. So if they need to view the assignment, they can click view assignment there. They could go to assignments in their MIE space on the left. So these are individual operations in Teams, or they could go to the we space and go to assignments there and look at assignments. At the moment, I'm in a teacher view, but you will see what it looks like as a student view in a minute. Are there any questions at the moment about setting assignments and getting that work out there? No? Okay. So the next thing will be to have a look at how to set an assignment with reading progress, and then what it looks like when you have a reading progress assignment given back into you. The reading progress tool is a very, very new tool as far as the tools kit you have available to you. If I go into, let's say, a reading task for English. So this is an assignment that I've created. I've given it its title, I've given it its category. My instructions here are pretty short, but what I've done is I've added in a section from Harry Potter, and that will allow that pupil to go in and read. What that looks like if we're doing that for the first time, let me get rid of that a minute. I'm going to remove that. You go to attach, and you go to reading progress. It will then say you can browse something from a sample library of texts, or you can upload your own. So if you're uploading your own, you would choose upload from PDF, and then I've got an example there of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I've got another example here from Harry Potter. Press open and it will come in, and because this is in Word format, you can then edit it. So if the text is bunched up together and you think, well, actually this isn't quite how I wanted it to be, you could have edited it in the original document, but you can edit it again in here. You could delete, you can change words and so forth, and then when you're happy with it, you press the tick. So that's one way of doing it, or you can go back and choose a different passage. So I'm going to go that one, and I could go to the sample library, and I can choose by reading level, and this at the moment is based on the American system and not the English system. But if it was, let's say, year 4 roughly, I might be looking for something in here that's more fictional. Have I got something that's more fictional? Let's say it's the volleyball star, and I will go select. I will bring that text in, and I've got the volleyball star there. It tells you the reading level. Now, the reading level itself is something that is a clarification point. So the reading level is, for Microsoft, it identifies the levels in the way that works best for your class. So if you know you've got a level system that you use in your school, then put the reading level in there. By default, Microsoft puts in a reading level based on the number of words, the complexity of words and so forth, but you don't have to keep that. You can change that. That's something that's up for grabs if you want to amend it. You can then say whether it's fiction or non-fiction. So this was a non-fiction text rather than a fiction text, but if you've uploaded your own, you can toggle between fiction and non-fiction. You can also choose how many attempts at reading it the pupil or student has. So you can make it unlimited, or you can say, look, you only get a certain number. I'm going to leave it unlimited today for this. And you can also choose the sensitivity of the artificial intelligence that's listening through reading progress. You can leave it on default, and most of the time that is adequate. But if you know you've got a class maybe with learning needs, or you work in a special school, or you are working with an intervention group, you can make it less sensitive. Or if you're working with a group you want to extend, you can make it even more sensitive, so it's really tight on the pronunciation that they're using. So the choice is there to change that. And you could also let them either record a video while they're talking to you. That video stays, from a safeguarding point of view, inside of Teams. It's only visible to you as a teacher. It's not visible to other people and students. Or you can toggle it off, so you just have audio. I'm going to leave that on. I'm going to press next. And then with all of those options chosen, it will attach that piece of text to my reading task, so that that's there and ready for them to use. What that looks like, if I save that one up, if I go over to an assigned assignment, so here I've got an imaginative writing task, and on my imaginative writing task, I've set it for a small selection of pupils in my class. I'm really fortunate, I've only got 6 pupils in my class, and at the moment none of that work has been returned. What that looks like, if I swap over to one of the students in that class, I'm just going to swap views, and I'm going to go over to Ella. Now, Ella has had the work set for her, and she has given it back in. So let me go over and find Ella. I think this is Ella. No, that's not Ella. Let me swap over. That's Alex. We'll have a look at Alex a little bit later. Let me try and find Ella again. That might be Ella there. Yep, that is Ella. So if I go over to here. So this is now logged in as a pupil view rather than a teacher view that we've been seeing recently. So you can see Ella is the member of a few different teams in school, but she is part of my primary classroom team. So if I go into that primary classroom as Ella, here I can see all my assignments there, and I can see my calendar. I've also got the general channel where I can click on my assignments and view it from there. So if I go to assignments for me as Ella, I've got nothing assigned at the moment, but I did complete and hand back the imaginative writing task. If I want to go back in and see that again, this is what the imaginative writing task looks like from a pupil-student perspective. So I've given Ella's class a paragraph from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I want them to read that, and then I want them to extend the story, but in their own way. So they've got a Word document there to write their own chapter 2. And what they can do is they can read the work that's been set for them. So if I swap over to Alex, who is also in that class, you can see what it looks like for someone that's yet to attempt that work. And then I'll show you as a teacher what you get back from a teacher perspective. So let me just swap over to Alex again. So now you'll see Alex, and if I go into my primary classroom, it's saying for me I've got 3 new pieces of work set there if I'm Alex. I'm going to go into the general channel. Well, here's my notifications of work I've got to do, but I could also go to assignments, and here we go. So imaginative writing is right there. And what I can do is I can click on the reading progress tool, and you'll share this experience with pupils first. And then in reading progress, what the pupils will get, if you allow them to have access to the microphone, you should switch on and you'll see me in a moment, there you go. It allows them to come in and it says, you're going to start reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, and you press start. It will give them a countdown, and after it's counted down, it will bring up the text. So Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, chapter 1, here comes Charlie. These 2 very old people are father and mother of Mr. Bucket, and you can get the idea. So you can go through the recording, you read through all the text, and then you can skip it if you want, as I've just done there, and I press I'm done. You can either try again, or you can use this recording, and if we use this recording for Alex, it will upload it to Teams. It will submit it back to me, and then that would leave me with the task of writing my extended chapter 2. And as a pupil, I can click on chapter 2. It will bring me in, and then I've got my chapter 2 Word document. It's entirely blank, so I've got a blank page. You could give some prompts if you wanted to have a scaffolded template, and you set that when you're setting the assignment. They will type into there, they hit the close button, and then they hand that in to me once it's finished at the end. What that looks like back on the teacher side, if I swap over, is over here. You can see that Ella was really diligent and she's already got that homework in ahead of time for me. So if I go into Ella's homework, I will now see for Ella, who's read the work and it's handed in, just exactly how she's got on with the text. Now, the AI, the machine learning that's built into Reading Progress, will take that 4.5-minute video, and I can listen to it myself if I want to. So I could press play.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Royal Dial. Chapter 1. Here comes Charlie.
And I could, out of interest, skip through and see different parts, but it's already marked for me. So it tells me the words they read per minute, the accuracy of the text that's been read, and it breaks it down into categories like mispronunciations or omissions of words. But I can go through and I can have a look on the text, and it's already been marked up for me as a teacher, just as to link back to the legend at the top. This word here has been mispronounced, so maybe I need to work on that or get them to work on that. I can change that if I want. I can edit the text. I can jump to different words. But what I can do is go through and understand, is this representative of this pupil from what I know in class? Is it because they're getting used to the technology? Or is there actually a learning need here where I need to get them together as a group and address something to do with reading? If we've got a reading focus in school, this is really useful. You've also got another bar over here where you can go to Insights. This is populated with some entirely fictional data in a demo mode. I've got my different pupils here, or I can have a look at all the pupils in the class. And then over time for my different reading progress assignments, so you can see there was Tuesday's reading task, probably a formative assessment task. And then Wednesday was probably a formative assessment task. But it gives me a graph now of the amount of mispronunciations and omissions or insertions of extra words. And it will tell me average words read per minute, whether it's got better over a period of time. There it's only a week. Rate of accuracy, has that improved, and words that that particular student found challenging, or you can have it as an insight graph for the whole class. You can break it down by genres, you can break it down by reading levels if you've done by medium, high and low, and you can also have it over a period of time if there's a particular day of the week with a task that you're interested in as well. So as a teacher, you can be very data rich in planning the resourcing of the interventions or what's going to come next, or amending your planning for your learning delivery. But what it's taken away from you is the need to listen to those people to read maybe every day, or maybe for their homework for them not to be able to do reading as a task. So you've got various options there that are now available to you and will help you with setting homework. And Reading Progress is the new jewel in the crown as far as Microsoft is concerned, because it's now a key part of assignments for homework. Has anybody had a go at Reading Progress yet and has got any experience of it they'd like to share? Either type it into the chat, or you're welcome to unmute and just speak to me. Not at this point. Okay. If I go back into a different homework, so marking and feedback we've looked at in Reading Progress, but just general marking and feedback. For me as a teacher, I don't need to go and do much in particular, so I'm going to go to read their work. In this example, unlike Reading Progress, my student hasn't handed anything in, which is why I see that logo. If they'd given me a Word document or a PowerPoint or scanned something and sent it back to me, it would appear where that little graphic appears. And then for Susanna, I can give her some feedback. Please remember this is due. It would be useful to cover in class. And that will be personalised feedback to her only. Other pupils and students wouldn't see that. I can return that to her, or I can return it for revision, so she's got to come back to me again. I've got an option there which got updated fairly recently. And if I want to move through the people in my class, I can either use the arrow there, or I might go to, let's say, Henry, and then back to Henry. This would be the work he'd handed in there. So as a teacher, I can move around and I can mark that way right here, in like having a virtual set of books inside my mark book. If I want to as well, I can get the data that I have here exported. So if you want to, you've got various options in assignments about setting default times coming in and so forth, but you can export into Excel, and then that can be used to get information into your own team as well. So if it was returned, and let's go into Mini Beast quiz. If I go up to here, I've got my export, the marking from there as Excel. If anybody on my for returned, if anybody's got anything I need to then put into my MIS system or whichever progress tracking system you're using in school. So Teams assignments isn't just for getting work out. It could also become your online mark book. It becomes the single place for your class where everything is, and gradually it will build up throughout the year. So you've got this universal tool which is extremely powerful, but is quite easy to use at the same time. Are there any questions about that before we go back over to the presentation at all? Again, you can either unmute and ask, or you can pop things in to me. No? Okay, I will swap back over to the presentation to finish off for today. As with everything that we've shown you, I'd urge you to just have a go, create a dummy assignment or a quiz, and just see how you get on with it before you assign it to a class. Some schools set up a test class team to use and then enroll all the teachers in there, so if they want to make their mistakes, they can do it in private away from the pupils and students. It's whatever works best for your school and the confidence levels of the teachers that you have in your school. So just to recap today, we've covered assignments for students, we've covered setting up assignments, creating a simple rubric, and also reading progress. The reading progress and reviews, the main focus of that is to explore the fluency and then make that better, because it's absolutely key in the reading. Also about assigning those in teams, but the insight and the analytics that you get, and it will support you and the students with accuracy of reading, the reading speed so they become more fluent and they can read quickly, and also the skill of reading aloud and making sure that they feel confident in doing so. It does link into comprehension as well, and awareness of things like phonics, expanding vocabulary and fluency too. So there's many benefits of using that tool and getting into using that as something as just part and parcel of Teams. It's there, it's free, so why not have that brought into your life? And if it doesn't work for you because actually your focus isn't English, go share it with somebody else in your school, because so many times that light bulb moment happens where all of a sudden you've got a member of staff that's been struggling with something or trying to find time in their day to do a certain thing, and then this is available and it makes life far easier. So to finish off, I have got on screen for you now the code that you can redeem in the Microsoft Education Centre, and this will allow you to become a certified MIE. The code itself, if I show you on the next screen, I'm going to move on to, the code is still in the top right hand corner. The code, you go to where you would sign in, and if you have signed in, it will show your initials. It will then create a little pop-up box in the middle of the screen, and in that pop-up box you can paste that code in, and then that code will work to make available to you 1,000 points, which instantly will award you the MIE certificate, so that it gives you the opportunity to have, say you've done the study and you won't have to go and complete a course, you can just go and do it from being here with me today. I'm also going to paste that into the chat, and that code is going to go in a second if my Teams will behave. Maybe it won't. I'm going to try that again a second. The Other aspect of the Microsoft Education Center is that it allows you to then pick things that are of interest to you. And if you think, well, I've done Teams, I've conquered Teams, but actually I'd like to know a bit more about OneNote class notebook, well, then it will allow you to do that. And it will put in examples of courses you like. It will make suggestions. I'm just going to see if that works. It's posted that twice. Let me edit that. But as well as suggestions, you can create learning pathways. And on those learning pathways, you can string together courses that are of interest to you. And those courses are something that will end up building up into evidence that maybe you've undertaken professional development individually. Apologies, the font color that's coming out on Teams doesn't seem to be that bright, but the code is there. If you highlight it, you'll be able to see it, and then you can paste it into the Microsoft Education Center. If you like what you've seen today and you're interested in joining future sessions, we've got another session that's running quite soon. The next session is going to be running early in November, on the 10th of November. And that session is all around using Microsoft Forms. Now that links back into using Microsoft Forms in Teams itself, because Microsoft Forms is something that's used in the quiz feature in assignments. It can be used as a tab in Teams, or you can use Microsoft Forms individually. If you'd like to sign up for that, I'm going to drop into the chat now the link to sign up for Microsoft Forms, so you can go and sign up through Eventbrite if you'd like to do that. Something else, while you're redeeming your code at the same time, we really do value having any feedback on how you found this session, whether you think anything would be better or it's been of use to you. So if you could just take a minute, and it will be a minute, to fill in the 5 questions that is in the Microsoft form that I've just popped into the chat there, I would really value that. But at the same time, I'm here to answer any questions if you need it. Could see somebody had to leave early. Yes, the recording does go onto our YouTube channel, and I can put the link for our YouTube channel in there as well, so that if any of you want to go and watch any of the other recordings that we've got, such as last time we completed a session on OneDrive for personal storage, but also for collaborative storage, we've got a dedicated YouTube channel where you can watch all of the recorded videos from sessions such as this, so the recordings are there as well. Thank you for coming along, and I value the time that you spared this afternoon to join with us. But if there are any questions you wish to ask, I'm going to stop the recording now, but you